Eric, you and your colleagues have identified a new form of innovation. You've termed it user innovation. What is it?
User innovation is fundamentally different from producer innovation, which has been the focus of research and policy for over 100 years. So user innovation is where the innovator develops something in order to use it. If I'm a heart surgeon and I want to develop a heart-lung machine, I'm doing it because I want to use it, not because I want to sell it, if I am a user innovator. If I am a skateboard pioneer, I'm developing a skateboard to use it, not to sell it. Now, this distinction turns out to be enormously important. We have found that users innovating for their own use account for over half of the most important innovations. We have also found that, for example, amongst household users, that is consumers, tens of millions of people spend tens of billions of dollars developing innovations for themselves. These form the basis for many of the products that we see today.
So it's very significant. Why do users innovate so prolifically?
Well, this is where theory comes in. One might turn the question around and say, well, why the heck, if users are innovating all over the place, was economics and economic policy ignoring it? Economic policy, ever since Schumpeter, has focused on the idea of producers as innovators. They have done this because they say, well, it's obvious that a producer can get more benefit from a given innovation than can a user. A producer's making it for tens or hundreds of thousands of customers. User is making it for him or herself. So you'd say, well, if it's a market, that's fantastic. You know, producers will do a better job. They can afford to spend more money. And so nobody ever looked for user innovation. And in fact, the definitions of innovation in the OECD that every country uses to measure whether an innovation has occurred only looked at producer innovations. And they did that by the indirect way of saying an innovation is not an innovation until it has been introduced on the market. But only producers introduce innovations onto the market. The result was that you would get tens or hundreds or thousands of people building skateboards for themselves, innovating. Only when a producer started to manufacture it commercially would it be seen in the statistics as an innovation. And so, by definition, a user innovation was called a producer innovation, and the inability to see user innovations persisted.
I see where you're coming from. When I was a student at MIT, innovation was defined as invention times commercialization. So it assumed that if it's not commercialized, it's not an innovation.
Yeah. And we have, in the last 10 years, my community and I, managed to change the official definition of innovation so that this won't be a problem going forward.
And what are the practical implications of a more accurate and complete definition of innovation? Why does this matter?
Half of innovation basically has been invisible. A lot of wrong assumptions have been driving policy. Users, because they innovate for themselves, are self-rewarded. They tend to give their innovations away. Open source software and so on. The whole idea of producer innovation is that you must hide it, you must protect it, you must patent it. And so it's a different mode of how innovation is done. And the producer innovation policies get in the way of what turns out to be at least half, and in my argument, the most important half, of how the innovation process actually works. By discovering this, and documenting it with many colleagues now, we are opening a new chapter in how innovation is understood, how policies are developed for it, and how practices are developed. It's an amazing new take on the innovation process, all because of user innovation.